On Monday morning a call came in from a number I did not recognize. I was on the metro standing between two women with market bags. I answered. Miss Elena Vargas. The voice was institutional, without urgency. Yes, I am calling from the Municipal Child Services Office. We have 3 minors here. They were left this morning with a note that says you agreed to take care of them today. I got off at the next station. Not because it was mine, but because I needed air. I stood on the platform with the phone against my ear while people passed by. And I felt something in my chest tighten in a way I had not felt in a long time. I had not agreed to anything. I had not received a single call. And yet there was my name attached to 3 children who were not my responsibility. To understand how I reached that Monday, you need to know what happened the Sunday before. At my parents' house there is always pozole on Sundays. The smell reaches from the street. Oregano, lemon, chili. My mother Carmen has spent years making the same broth, and each time she prepares it as if it were the first. That Sunday my sister Valeria announced she was pregnant, the 4th child. The entire table reacted as if it were the best news of the year. My mother crossed herself. My father Don Javier Castillo smiled from his place with that calm smile he had for news that left him without words. Then my mother looked at me with the voice she used when she was not really asking. Elena, are you going to help Valeria when she needs to rest? I set the spoon on the plate, breathed slowly, and said in a low voice. Why me? That is not my place. The silence was not sudden. It was progressive. First Valeria stopped chewing, then Alejandro, her husband, looked up. Then my father shifted in his chair. Valeria was the first to speak. She laughed in a way that hurt more than if she had shouted. You are free, take it as practice. I did not answer. I took my bag, picked up the molcajete of salsa I had brought, and left. I drove back to my apartment with my hands tight on the wheel. At the height of the highway I started to cry. Not the cry one shows. The other one, the one that comes out when no one is looking and one no longer has the strength to keep holding it in. I arrived at the apartment, washed my face, and sat on the bed with the phone face down on the pillow. That night the family WhatsApp group exploded. My mother, the family always supports each other. Valeria sent the ultrasound photo. Alejandro wrote, the aunts and uncles who do not help do not deserve to be in the family. I answered nothing. I thought it was enough. That a clear refusal was sufficient. On Monday morning I learned it was not enough. Because when I arrived at Child Services and saw the 3 backpacks lined up against a bench, and saw Andrea sitting with her arms crossed trying to look bigger than she was, and Sebastian with red eyes and Bruno asleep on the legs of a worker who clearly had been there too many hours, I understood that this had never been a misunderstanding. Someone had planned it and I had not even seen it coming. The social worker asked for identification, then showed me the note. It was Valeria's handwriting. I recognized it at once because she always made the circles too tight. Elena Vargas agreed to care for the children today. Family is family. We will pick them up later. I read it twice. Then I took out the phone and showed the messages from Sunday. My mother telling me that I would take care of them. Valeria telling me to take it as practice, and my reply. That is not my place. I agreed to nothing. The worker read the screen in silence. Her expression changed. Do you want me to file a formal report? Yes, please. 40 minutes later Valeria and Alejandro arrived. Valeria entered with her stomach forward and red eyes. And I felt something I did not expect to feel. For 1 second, only 1 second, I saw my sister, not the person who had done this. My sister, pregnant, tired, with 3 children and a life that probably felt heavier than I imagined. But Alejandro spoke before that second ended. What a beautiful family. Sends the children to child services instead of helping. I did not answer. I looked at the worker. Can you add that comment to the report? That night I did not sleep well. I sat at the table with the laptop open and began to call. First the school of Andrea. The secretary paused when I gave my name. Yes, Miss Vargas, you appear as the main pickup contact when the parents are not available. Main, not emergency, main. I called the kindergarten of Sebastian. The same. I called the pediatric office of Bruno. You are registered as authorized caregiver. I had never signed anything like that. At 9 at night I had 3 PDFs in my email. I opened the first and stayed looking at the screen without moving anything. My name, my address, my phone number and a line I never wrote. Elena Vargas has agreed to assist continuously with the care of the minors during the pregnancy and the postpartum recovery. Continuously. I had to stand up. I walked to the window. I looked toward the street where the cars kept passing as if nothing. This was not about Monday. It was about the coming months. Maybe more. The family group stayed active until dawn. My mother, your sister needs you and you do this. Alejandro, you wanted to live your life. Then live it alone. Valeria sent an audio. I listened once. Her voice trembled. There was a very short moment when I thought maybe I should give in. That maybe I was exaggerating everything. But then I opened the PDF again and read the word continuously. And that moment passed. I answered nothing. I took screenshots, saved the audio, downloaded the 3 forms and looked for a family lawyer. That is how I found attorney Carla Fuentes. She answered her own phone even though it was late. She listened to me 5 full minutes without interrupting and then said, "Do not meet with them alone. Do not speak on the phone without recording, and tomorrow we send a letter. If they ever put your name on something without asking you, you know exactly how that moment feels. Subscribe, because what came after was more than I expected." The letter from attorney Carla arrived certified. My mother called 12 times that same day. I answered none. My father sent a short message. "You brought a lawyer into family matters." I replied only once. "You put my name on legal documents." After that I muted the group. 2 days of silence. I allowed myself to believe it had ended. On Wednesday they called me from reception at the hospital where I worked. "Elena, there is a gentleman in the lobby with 3 children. He says they are your relatives." I walked to the lobby with the badge still on. Alejandro was standing near the entrance with Andrea, Sebastian and Bruno. Bruno had one shoe untied. Sebastian was crying against the sleeve. Andrea looked at the floor with that expression of children who understand more than they should. Alejandro smiled when he saw me. "Ah, there is the independent young lady." He raised the phone and started recording. I breathed. And in that moment I understood something Alejandro had not calculated. I was in a hospital with cameras in every hallway, with staff trained to document exactly this kind of situation, with witnesses who were not anyone's family. I turned toward the guard. "Please notify coordination. This gentleman is trying to leave minors here without my consent. There is a prior legal notice." Alejandro lowered the phone. "Only 1 second. My supervisor arrived in 3 minutes and told Alejandro with a calm I envied that he must leave with the children at once." Alejandro tried to explain. My supervisor had no time for explanations. He left escorted. And while he left, Andrea turned to look at me. Her face was not angry. It was confused. That affected me more than any threat from Alejandro. I wanted to go after her. Tell her that I loved her. That none of what was happening was her fault. But I stayed where I was because love without limits was exactly how I had reached this point. 3 days later my mother organized a gathering at the parish. She posted it on social media before telling me. There were pink balloons, a dessert table and a donation box decorated with golden footprints. I went. I stood at the back of the hall almost 5 minutes before anyone noticed me. I saw my mother next to the cake accepting hugs. I saw my father shaking hands with the smile he used in public. I saw Valeria sitting with one hand on her stomach and felt something I did not expect to feel. Sadness, not anger, sadness, because in another version of this story I could have been there with him if someone had asked me first. Father Torres took the microphone and spoke of community sacrifice. Some heads turned subtly toward me. I stepped forward. "Father, before anyone donates, I would like 2 minutes." The hall fell silent. My mother opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Father Torres looked at me a moment, then nodded and handed me the microphone. I did not feel triumph in that moment. I felt the weight of what I was about to do. My name is Elena Vargas. I love my nieces and nephews. I have bought school supplies, paid for camps, covered emergency bills that were not mine for years. What I did not do was agree to be the permanent caregiver of my sister's 4th child without anyone asking me. Valeria began to cry. Alejandro said something, but his voice came out strange. I showed the messages from Sunday, the child services report, the forms with my name in copied handwriting, the hospital report. I insulted no one. I did not shout. I only placed the documents in front of the people who until then had only heard one version. A woman from the back stood up slowly. "Valeria, did you say that Elena had abandoned them?" Valeria did not answer. Father Torres walked toward the donation box and placed his hand on top. For today we suspend the collection until the situation is clarified. I left before anyone turned that into another debate. The consequences were not immediate. That is what they never tell you. Real justice is slow, sometimes silent, sometimes it seems it does not arrive. Alejandro took weeks to be suspended, not because someone fired him at once, but because attorney Carla had documented that he used equipment from his work to print the forms and that eventually reached the people it had to reach. Valeria closed the comments on her social media without explanations. My parents stopped appearing at some neighborhood events, not because anyone barred them, but because certain conversations became uncomfortable. The mediation was a month later. I arrived with attorney Carla. They arrived with a lawyer who clearly had already told them to stay quiet. They did not listen. Alejandro tried to say that the forms had been misunderstandings. Carla placed the documents on the table one by one. In the end, they signed no direct contact for 12 months, except by email. No my name on any document related to the children. No approaching my place of work. Alejandro would cover the legal fees and the damages for work interference. While they signed, Valeria looked at me. Her eyes were tired in a way I recognized, because I had also been that tired. I said nothing. Sometimes there is nothing to say. That night I found an email from the Regional Hospital of Puebla. A coordination of operations position. Better post. Different city. 6 months earlier I would have hesitated. I would have thought of Andrea, of Sebastian, of Bruno. I would have found a reason to stay. That night I accepted the interview before my guilt could wake up. 2 weeks later they gave me the position. The first morning in Puebla I woke before the alarm. I waited for the missed calls, the urgent messages, the guilt disguised as emergency. Nothing arrived, only soft rain over a city that still asked nothing of me. I made coffee, drank it hot, sitting by the window, and thought that helping has value when it is chosen freely. When it is demanded without permission, it stops being love. Boundaries are not abandonment. They are the only honest way to teach someone where respect begins. If this story reached you in any way, leave me your comment below. And if you do not want to miss what comes next, subscribe now. Here there is always a story worth listening to until the end. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.